Yo, what up? It's your boy Poison, and today I want to discuss some very interesting news regarding some hackings of pro players that occurred at the Apex Legends Global Series yesterday. As I noticed there was a lot of misconceptions and kind of fear mongering that was going around the net. I thought it'd kind of be cool to do a little bit of an analysis and to kind of discuss the topic to help clear up some misconceptions and worries that might be going around. So to kind of start off, yesterday I woke up to a bunch of pings on Discord and Twitter, essentially telling people to uninstall Apex Legends and also to try and boycott other games that also ran the Easy Anti-Cheat client. And being out of the loop, I didn't know what was going on, so I threw on the good old gi and decided to practice some Google foo, and this led me to a post by the Anti-Cheat Police Department on Twitter. So checking out the post from the Anti-Cheat Police Department here on Twitter, they go on to say, PSA, there's currently an RCE exploit being abused in play Apex. It is unsure whether it comes from the game or the actual anti-cheat Teddy EAC, which is the Easy Anti-Cheat. I would advise against playing any games protected by EAC or any EA titles once they have fixed this or can comment. Currently, the RCE is being abused to inject cheats into streamers' machines, which means they have the capabilities to do whatever, like installing ransomware software, locking up your entire PC. Now, we'll get into what an RCE exploit is here in a second, but I want to show you a gameplay clip from Genburten, who is the first pro player in the tournament to be hit by the hack.
One flash? Where?
Like bullet here, on my ping. I knocked him there.
Yep.
Wait, what the fuck?
Don't worry about it.
I'm getting hacked. But
I know. Sure. Can you play the game?
bro, I'm getting hacked.
I know, but can you play?
Yeah, but it's cheating. The fuck?
I know. Sure. I know. And what?
Like what?
No, but is it fucking up your game?
Yes, I can see everyone. Like
You need to leave.
I didn't leave the game, right? Yeah, I'm leaving. Like what the?
Admin's down. Nick, admin's down.
But
admin's down.
I left.
Now, for those of you that are not familiar with Apex Legends or Battle Royale games, this is not normal at all. Here, he can see the names of everyone, their positions, their health bars. It's pretty much as if the gaming Jesus himself came down and blessed Genburten here with the forbidden jutsus of the gaming gospel. He has a mod menu on his screen, essentially showing all the hacks that have just been applied to him, like some superpowers just granted to this man to just obliterate the entire lobby. Now, Genburten himself is actually really good about this. He keeps the integrity of the match by instantly just leaving because he knows that obviously he doesn't want his team to get disqualified and all that. Now, for those of you in your, mid to late 20s that are ancient like me, you might actually have seen something like this back in the past, like on games like Call of Duty and stuff like that, where hackers would essentially run injection lobbies and they would then inject you with hacks, and then you could actually get a mod menu in the game. Essentially, that's kind of what this is. It's like the hacker has injected Genburten here with his own mod menu with all these hacks just already enabled. Now, this is pretty concerning because upon first glance, somebody might just automatically assume this, oh, this is just another pro player that's caught running some scripts or hacks on their computer and he accidentally just showed it, like this could be really career ruining for him. But there's three aspects to this one that I want to talk about that clearly goes to show that Genburten had absolutely nothing to do with this hack. So the first point I want to talk about is just Genburten himself. I mean, the guy has been in the Apex scene forever. He's a well-known pro player and he's played in multiple tournaments that have proved his ability, and he doesn't need to hack. Like if he was a hacker, it probably would have been exposed long before this. And now the second point I want to talk about is if you look to the side here, it's actually the hacker is sending text from Genburten himself into the chat in the match, and it says Apex Hacking Global Series by Destroyer 2009 in random. So those are the people that have essentially hacked into the servers here and are giving the players hacks. And this is something very common that you'll see in the hacker scene is they'll essentially get their name out there to kind of promote themselves, which is why they waited until this big tournament to hack two of the most prolific pro players in the Apex scene to kind of get their name out there. It's kind of like free publicity or just like some pride thing with hackers. You kind of see it really often. And now the third point I want to talk about is essentially this didn't just happen to Genburten. In the next match after this, it actually happened to ImperialHal as well, except his was a bit different where he was just given aimbot.
Can we shoot height?
Yeah, shoot now.
I'm cheating. I'm fucking shit. I got aimbot. I have aimbot.
Oh no.
You gotta
leave the game, bro. You
Back
gotta
out,
leave
bro.
the game.
The door's blocked. Break it.
Break it.
I have aimbot right now. I literally have aimbot.
Leave the game.
What if I just don't shoot? We gotta get to the other building. Get to the other building. Can we get to the other building? Smoke that
I
off.
can't. Soaking them.
Hey, blue. 40 on 1. Walking down. Crossing.
So, Raven, tell them I have aimbot right now. Okay, wait, no, I'm back. I'm cheating. No, I can't shoot. I can't shoot. I literally cannot shoot. I can't shoot. I cannot shoot.
So as you see in that clip, just mid-match, ImperialHal is just blessed with the superior powers of aimbot, just snapping to and from his enemies, shooting effortlessly. His teammates are yelling at him to quit the game. Chaos is just blasting out the wazoo here. He doesn't want to leave because understandably he doesn't want to get his team to DQ'd, so he's calling out for the admins to stop the play and check out what the hell's going on. It's just this big clusterfuck essentially that's going on. Now, due to the constant interruptions of the pro players being hacked in the ALGS, Apex Legends Esports essentially had to come on Twitter and release a statement that says, due to the competitive integrity of this series being compromised, we have been made the decision to postpone the NA finals at this time. We'll share more information soon. Now, after hearing all this, some of you may be sitting here and just kind of wondering like, well, what exactly is an RCE attack and why is it so concerning? So RCE stands for remote code execution and is essentially a network-based attack carried out by hackers, which allows them to execute arbitrary code on a network, system, or device. Typically, an RCE attack is done through a vulnerability within the network or system itself. However, hackers can also execute an RCE attack by simply targeting a high-value, high-placing individual within a company, such as IT employees or managers. And they can essentially go in and grant themselves elevated access, which allows them to just wreak havoc on a company's systems by essentially doing things like stealing data, DDoSing the company's systems, and they can even do really malicious stuff such as infecting the company's systems with malware and ransomware. Now, the concerning thing for us here regarding the whole Apex situation is it really comes down to where this vulnerability lies. If the vulnerability itself is found on the Apex game servers, that kind of means that everything is contained to the Apex game itself, and the hacker won't really be able to do anything to your specific computer. Now, if the vulnerability is found within Easy Anti-Cheat, which is kind of like the whole speculation going on right now, then it's very bad because Easy Anti-Cheat is a anti-cheat software that is hosted on the client system, which is like our system, right? So that means that if you were to log into the game and connect to the game servers and the hacker were to target you with one of these vulnerabilities, they could actually straight up just hack your computer, lock you out of it, like put some malware on your shit, like just fuck you up. So now for a little bit of fun, I do kind of want to do my like own little like hypothesis or a bit of speculation here, because even though I'm not really a cybersecurity professional, I am a computer engineer. So I have dabbled in cybersecurity as well as the development world. Personally, when you look at the past, like I said before on Genburten's clip, the hacks that are being executed on the Apex server remind me more of like the same kind of stuff that was happening back in like Call of Duty lobbies, where hackers run infection lobbies, and if you joined one of these lobbies, the hacker could essentially inject hacks into you, kind of like what we saw on Genburten's screen, how all of a sudden a mod menu just popped up. That would actually happen in Call of Duty, and some people just joining these servers did just have mod menus appear on their screens where they could then essentially be a hacker without actually having to install the hacks themselves. I don't really think the evidence that we have now really lends itself to an RCE attack on the anti-cheats or client's end. It seems to me more or less like an abuse of server level access on the actual Apex servers by the hacker. Because if there was, the hacker wouldn't just be targeting like two individual like pro players. Like they could essentially mess with everyone that has Easy Anti-Cheat on their system, and not only contained to Apex, like there's a huge list of games that run Easy Anti-Cheat, and every single one of those games could be affected if it lies within Easy Anti-Cheat. And if it does turn out to be some server level access thing, that essentially just means that the hacker is either using some kind of like hacked client to send commands to the server that for some reason the server is actually executing. They could have actually compromised a employee's account and then given themselves like elevated admin permissions on the server so that they can just be essentially doing whatever they want, free reign. And of course, the third possibility is that the Apex Legends like source engine or like servers might actually have their own RCE exploit or vulnerability within that. But even then, it's still better than it being contained within anti-cheat itself, because that means we just have to wait for Apex Legends to essentially come out with a patch, find it, and then it'll be pretty much smooth sailing. And now I know this might sound really, really bad. Like you guys are like, well, what the fuck? Like they can just like do all this, do all these things. But I kind of want to touch on like the fear mongering that I was talking about at the beginning of the video. Is there's a lot of misinformation going around the internet right now, essentially telling everyone to uninstall their games, boycott any EA or easy anti-cheat games. And that's a bit silly in my opinion. See, there also seems to be this big misconception that hackers can just do this to you at any time or always have access to your system. I feel like the thing is people don't know that RCE attacks are network-based attacks. So for the hacker to actually, even if the vulnerability did lie in easy anti-cheat itself, the hacker would need you to be connected to the game servers running easy anti-cheat for them to actually be able to execute any code on your system and infect you. So essentially the way it works is if you're offline from the game servers, even if the vulnerability is in easy anti-cheat, the hacker won't be able to do anything to your computer or you as long as you don't log in to the game servers. Because if you're not running the game, the easy anti-cheat isn't running on your PC. So nothing can be executed for you there. So you don't have to go delete all your games, okay? It takes time. It takes time to download those again, you know, save your time. But what I would recommend is just don't play Apex right now if you're worried. Just simply take a couple days off, wait for official statements saying where the exploit lies. And Easy Anti-Cheat themselves actually did an investigation this morning where they state here, we have investigated recent reports of a potential RCE issue within Easy Anti-Cheat. And at this time, we are confident that there is no RCE vulnerability within EAC being exploited. We will continue to work closely with our partners for any follow-up support needed. So this is very good that they're kind of jumping on this quickly and are investigating the problem. But I just want to kind of stress the point that just because they're confident that there's no RCE vulnerability doesn't necessarily mean that they're 100% certain there's no RCE vulnerability. And kind of until there's further investigation and we're shown proof of this, I would still tread water lightly and kind of wait to see what's going on. And this sentiment is also kind of forwarded by PirateSoftware himself. If you guys don't know who PirateSoftware is, I really recommend you go check out his channel and his stuff. He's an amazing individual. He's been in the cybersecurity and hacking scene for like 20 years now at places like Amazon Games, Blizzard, just a very knowledgeable guy, and he shares a lot on his channel. But here he said, being confident is different from fully understanding the recently claimed RCE vulnerability. With EAC's claim, here I'm still waiting to see if the vuln lies with Apex or with EAC. Better to be correct over being fast. Don't spread Linus fear and wait for more information. Now I agree with PirateSoftware here in a statement of that it's kind of still up in the air. There's no real proof or conclusion of what the vulnerability that's being exploited is or how the hacker is actually doing the exploits. But I do want to show you guys that this isn't the only case that we've seen of Apex hacks like this for the pro players. ImperialHal actually has a clip that PirateSoftware and ThePrimeagen went over on stream. And in the clip, you can pretty much see the same hacker that hacked the ALGS here is hacking his rank lobby and sending an entire wave of just bots to hunt him down. And this is most likely the actual server that's being affected because as you can see in the clip, the entities are actually being killed as if they were real players. So they're pretty much just like legit bots almost that the server's registering.
There we go. Destroyer 2009 fan. In a public lobby game? Interesting. Destroyer 2009 fan, Destroyer 2009 fan, Destroyer 2009 fan. So he's summoning tons of versions of himself into the game. So I'm really interested in this now because you've got a couple of possibilities. For their machines having the cheat tools turned on, you've got end user compromised machine, right? That could be through a download, so it could be a Trojan on their machine that's actually giving that kind of an access, or it could be RCE through the game. For this kind of a vulnerability, That means they'd have to be using an exploit to summon all those units in-game, which means the server has to be saying yes to the commands that are being stated, which means they have some kind of server-level access or have found a vulnerability in the way that the client sends commands that the server is accepting. This is not new in the world of gaming, so there is a potential for this being a client that is telling the server to do something, the server's doing something dumb that it shouldn't be doing. That happens all the time in games. The interesting thing to me is if he's got access to the server in any way and he's getting the server to run stuff, where does that end, right? Because if you have some kind of a vulnerability that runs specific commands, then what commands can it run? Is it restricted in some way? Can it do something worse than that? I don't know. This is some wild shit, frankly. Really wild shit. I could see how people could assume this is RCE, but we don't know. This could be access to the server. This could be a client sending commands that the server accepts where they have limited functionality. This could be that they have 2 compromised player machines. There's a lot of different options here. There's no solid proof that this is RCE in Easy Any Cheat or in Apex. So jumping to that conclusion makes no sense. It never will. You have to look at any vulnerability as a researcher. Be like, okay, this is what's happening, but how? And once we find out the how, then we can claim if it's remote code execution or not. If we don't have the how, then don't spread misinformation. Doesn't make any damn sense. Some people are saying like, hacker stated it's RCE. Cool. I don't care what the hacker states. Remote code execution is a very specific kind of vulnerability. And when you're making claims like that, you have to prove the claim. Anyone can claim whatever the hell they want on the internet. If you're taking that as truth without having proof of it, then you haven't been paying attention. The whole point of this is that you need the method. You need to prove the method. And if you don't prove the method, taking a claim at face value, you're just spreading misinformation. We have to know how this is happening.
So kind of piggybacking off what Thor said in those clips, as well as my own hypothesis from earlier, it's a very complex situation where on one hand, you have Genburten and ImperialHal who have had what looks like client-side cheats activated on their games. But on the other hand, you also have the hacker who seems to have gotten some kind of server-level access or maybe access to an EA employee's PC to where he can actually start manipulating and executing code on the server to like spam bots and everything. Now, this isn't where the story ends for this. Further on in the conversation, ThePrimeagen and PirateSoftware essentially added Mandy to the call, who's another prolific high-level Apex player. He went on to describe that he's been kind of contacted by the hacker multiple times and even played a game with him. And the hacker was able to not only gift him and ImperialHal thousands of dollars worth of Apex packs, but the hacker has also managed the ability to straight up just put an indicator on the pro players' accounts to make Easy Anti-Cheat just ban them from the game. So it's very interesting to see what's going on here, and there's still a lot of investigation that needs to be done to actually find the root cause of this vulnerability and how the hacker is managing to pretty much manipulate the Apex servers like this. But I want to play some more clips from PirateSoftware here, where he essentially goes into his opinions on if he believes that this could possibly be associated with EAC, as well as pretty much describing how an RCE would work on the server level.
Based on what we have, I don't think that the attacker has individual access to Apex players' machines. I do think he has access to the server in some capacity. To be able to get individual RCE access onto an end user's machine, that means the end user's machine has to have that vulnerability. That means the client has to be vulnerable, not just the server. So he'd have to ping pong from a vulnerable server and then down to each vulnerable client, which is a much wilder vulnerability. Like chaining like that is not easy shit. And it means that the vuln has to exist there in the first place. Like when we're dealing with vulnerabilities anytime, especially in the games industry, we have to determine scope of the attacker's ability. And if the attacker is claiming something, we need to prove that the attacker can do those types of things. What is this dude doing where he's getting access to these individuals' computers? And Occam's razor to me says, you've got 2 compromised normal machines, because he hasn't gone after anybody else in those games. He hasn't compromised anybody else's accounts in this way by actually running those when he could. So if that is happening, if he does have that access, why didn't he use it again? The only thing he's doing outside of that is server-side actions, such as spawning in packs and handing them to you, and spawning in bots in the game. Server-side access is scary enough. That's bad, right? They need to find out what the hell's going on there. But this, still, no evidence of RCE on the client.
Because if it truly is EAC, then, I mean, this person listed out a list of games that have EAC in it. It's enormous.
The reason why I doubt it is, let's look at the scope again. He's only hitting Apex Legends players. It's unlikely that it's Easy Anti-Cheat. If you had access to every game that has Easy Anti-Cheat on it, everything would be on fire, right? Like, that's not, I find that to be incredibly doubtful. Most likely possibility, this dude has server-level access, right? 100%. Secondary possibility of that is he doesn't have direct server-level access. There may be a compromised employee's machine in that. Because if you have a compromised employee machine, you would get the same level of access as if you had a vulnerability directly on the server. So for people who are saying like, oh, he's in your PC and things like that, there's no indication that he is. Right? There's no indication that he's in these specifically Mandy's PC. There's indication that he has server-side access. There's no indication that he has client-side access, other than those two other players, which could have directly compromised machines. Their specific machines are compromised, not the game. Let me draw this on the good old whiteboard here. Let's say that the attacker's computer is here, and let's say that your computer is here. This is the server. If the attacker has remote code execution on the server, it means that they can execute code on this machine from their machine. It does not mean that they can execute code on your machine, but it means that they can modify memory and execute commands on the server. That means that they could do things like ban you, or generate packs, or change your lobby, or delete your lobby, or anything else that goes on with this, depending on the server infrastructure that's there. Now remember, the server instance is a solo thing. There's authentication servers that handle login, may not have access to that. It could be the actual game servers themselves, so just changing game state, but not changing anything outside of that. There may be servers that handle everything with shops and payment processing details, because there's a bunch of different standards that have to be applied to payment processing information. Totally different servers, right? So there's lots of different things that go into the server when people talk about servers for games. It's not just one thing, but it's very clear that he has access to purchase and information regarding how many packs your account has, and he has access to the game servers because he can do things like summon in a bunch of bots. Those alone does not necessarily mean he has remote code execution on all things, because he could be doing a lot more damage. He has execution for two things: summoning bots, actually three things: summoning bots, banning people by flagging their account for easy anti-cheat, and the last one is creating packs and then giving them to people. So those three vulnerabilities are quite bad, but doesn't show full control. Full control would be much worse, right? Just because you have execution on this machine doesn't mean you have execution on the end user's machine. You would have to have another vulnerability. What you would need to do at that point is you have to have remote code execution on the server, and then that would then chain into another vulnerability that's on the client. The client would have to be vulnerable, so you could do that on the end user, which would be your game copy. In this case, we can't prove this connection. So it's strange to say that that's the truth. We have to prove the connection first. That's it.
Yeah.
So as Sor kind of explained there, the situation is very complex, and even though there does seem to be some evidence that the hacker obviously has some kind of powers to manipulate the Apex servers, whether it's through a vulnerability or some kind of hack client or whatnot, there's still no evidence that there's actually any RCE exploits going on the client. Now, it is a bit more likely that it could be on the server, as PirateSoftware said, but that doesn't mean that if there's an RCE that lies on the server, doesn't give the hacker the access to hack into your PC. There would still have to be a vulnerability on the client side that would allow the hacker to daisy chain from the server into your computer, and then they would have to use that vulnerability on your client or PC to actually execute their own malicious code. So judging by the findings we've seen right now, we're kind of in the clear, but personally, I'm still going to be looking out for the official statements just to see what comes of this and if there actually is any findings of some vulnerabilities hidden in the systems. But there's one other thing that I kind of wanted to bring up here in the video, just because it happened at the end of the day yesterday, and it kind of like leads into what I think is going to happen going forward. So at the end of the workday yesterday, the Epic Online Service Twitter account posted a tweet saying, "We have investigated recent reports of a potential RCE issue in Apex Legends. We have confirmed to be unrelated to easy anti-cheat. We are confident there is no RCE vulnerability within EAC being exploited." So this is now the second kind of source that is trying to clear easy anti-cheat of the RCE vulnerability, which, if that's true, that does go back to say that, well, clearly the hackers then using something on the Apex servers or has some kind of access to their servers to execute arbitrary code on them. And if we look at the engine that Apex Legends is actually based upon, it's based on a modified version of the source engine. Now that kind of raises a little bit of a red flag, because we have actually experienced issues in the past of the source engine having RCE exploits. Now, as I said, the Apex Legends source engine is a modified version of the source engine, so we don't know if it carried over any of those previous vulnerabilities that the engine had, but it is something to think about going forward. But yeah, that's pretty much it for me. I just kind of want to talk about the whole situation going on because I found it really interesting, and being a computer engineer myself, I'm always interested in talking about cybersecurity and learning about exploits that are going on. I hope you guys learned something, and I hope you enjoyed the video. Kind of a I'm kind of still getting used to doing videos like this, like talking on camera and all that. So sorry if it seems like it's a bit jumped around or like jambled. I'm trying my best, man. We'll get better in the future, right? But anyways, I hope you enjoyed the video. That's it for me. If you enjoyed, give the video a like. If you want to see more videos like this or gaming videos in the future, subscribe to the channel, and I'll see you in the next one. Peace.